Thousands of people living in New York are homeless. In Brooklyn, you see many of them on the subways or curled up in sidewalks or between buildings. But there are thousands of others you see every day on your job, in your school, and you don't know their story of being homeless. Many of us who have some place we call home have no tolerance for people sleeping in streets and no understanding of the plight of the homeless. For them, this is a horrible reality. Joining me to discuss this are Minister Ramona Sargent, founder of Community Assignment. That's an organization that offers hope and dignity to homeless and underserved residents in the community. Also, Waleek Boone, director of the Transit Academy at Medgar Evers College, which provides services for all enrolled students faced with hardships, including homelessness. Welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
I hate to be discussing a problem as dire as this, but someone has to, huh?
Yes, yes.
The problem is that homelessness is growing. Let's begin by talking about the causes of homelessness.
Sam, there are various causes with respect to homelessness. Some people lose their homes, some people lose their jobs, some people lose their family as a result too of the domestic violence, untreated mental illness. There are quite a few factors that impact homelessness in our society.
I would just like to add on that we have people being released from prison. Mm-hmm. We have youth aging out of the foster care system in which they become homeless, don't have anywhere to go.
We talk about the sheltered and the unsheltered. What's the difference here?
There's this person that I encounter on the street every so often. She's become a friend of mine. I won't say her name, and she is homeless. She refuses to go to the shelter. And her reason is because she's been raped a couple times and she lost items. They have stolen her money. This is what she claims, as well as items she has there. So I started to think, Sam, that the situation is really so bad. This inclement weather that we experience now, it is so cold right now, and when summertime comes around, but particularly now, that someone will decide that they are not going to go to the shelter and bear this inclement weather. So it leads me to believe that there has to be an underlying issue there that's keeping people from wanting to go to the shelters. I've also spoken with other people who, they are at the shelters, but they're not comfortable there. We go out often onto the streets to give out food and clothing and give resource for shelters. And we will have these people coming out from the shelters to be served. They'll get their food, they'll get their clothing, and they will ask you, can I have another meal that I can keep for later? We don't particularly like the food here. So they will come and they'll be served, but they want to put aside for later. So there's something, I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure whether it's not a safe haven. I think it's safe to a certain extent, but I believe that situation needs to be examined.
Is there a trust problem here? Because many people are saying they prefer to be on the street than in the shelters.
That's the word. If you're losing your money and if you're getting raped a couple times in shelter, they're not happy, they're not trusting. So there is something that's really going on there.
And when you think about it, working with students every day that's homeless, you would not be able to tell that these individuals are homeless unless they self-disclose. So those that I speak to like to hide in the shadows. They don't want to be stigmatized. They don't want to be abused, as Ramona just alluded to, in these shelters. They are treated in the way, as they mentioned to me, like they less than nothing. They have a curfew. So say, for example, a student have to go to the library. They have to make sure they back at that shelter before a certain time or they will pretty much lose their bed. This is why some go unsheltered, whereas they're sleeping in their cars. They're sleeping in 24-hour McDonald's. And they hide in the shadows, pretty much. and you would not be able to tell these students is homeless pretty much unless they self-disclose, because they look like you and I. They dress very well, but unless they self-disclose, you would not know.
And some students are doubling up in places where they sleep. What kind of a problem have you heard about as a result of this? You know, you have, rather than one student in a room, you've got 2 students and 3 students in a room.
So generally, students that I have encountered, it becomes an issue with the person who's renting those rooms, because they only want one person in the room. So if they have 2 people in the room, they missing out on money. They'd rather rent a room to another individual and double up the money instead of having them both in the same room.
What are the challenges, the main challenges for homeless students that you encounter?
So the main challenges that I encounter is food insecurity.
Food insecurity.
Food insecurity, whereas they on campus hungry. So if you have a student in the classroom and they're hungry, how can they function? Also, another challenge is transportation. So as we see on the news today, the new policy that they have implemented is trying to stop people from jumping the turnstiles. So I have spoken to students whereas they asking the bus driver for a ride to get to school. They standing at the turnstile asking for a swipe. They jump in the turnstile. So over time, this becomes discouraging. So these are one of the issues that can pretty much affect a retention rate because the student don't want to go to school. So some of the things we do at the Transitional Academy is we offer the student a Metro card to come back and forth to school. We offer different food vouchers where we give food vouchers to students to our cafeteria so they can get a hot meal. We give them we give them vouchers to Food Town where they can shop for $50. We also have established a food pantry at Medgar Evers College via Food Bank NYC, and the students got to have an opportunity to visit that pantry once a week to pretty much get some food.
Continue to tell us some more about the Transition Academy.
So the Transitional Academy was pretty much established in 2017 by our president, Dr. Rudolph Crew, when he heard of that we had students on campus that's either homeless or food insecure. He didn't hesitate. He established this program, put me in place to try to lead this initiative. So within 3 years, I could say I have seen over 600 students that might be either food insecure, homeless, or faced with housing instability. So some of the things in which we do is we work closely with the Department of Social Services. So if a student have to go into the shelter, what we do is work closely with them so they can stay in Brooklyn. Because as you know, if you go into the shelter system, they can send you to Manhattan, they can send you to Staten Island, they can send you to the Bronx. Our goal is to have the students stay in Brooklyn so they can be closer to Medgar Evers College so they can continue their education pretty much.
Ramona, we've been hearing that some homeless people are being shipped out of Brooklyn, and actually they're shipped to other boroughs or even other states. You've heard about this.
It can only mean because we have an overflow of homelessness in our city, and as a result of that, I don't know all their particulars with respect to this, but as you say that we're shipping out,
yes,
it tells me that there's no room. There's not enough room now to accommodate the homelessness, the rise of homelessness we have in our city, and that's concerning.
In California, they have set up these tent cities. Do you foresee that happening here in Brooklyn? And we hope not, but
10 cities for the homeless.
Yes,
I'm not quite sure, but I will tell you this though. Part of their mission of their community assignment, one of the projects that we're embarking upon with the community assignment is to have a shower project. It has not been done in the city before. I believe there's one church in the city that does it. So this is how the shower project will work. We'll have this building, we'll have this place set up in a way to accommodate the homeless people. Come on in, you can have a shower, you can have a change of clothing, you can have some food. While that is happening, you can have your clothes laundered if you do wish to keep the clothing that you have, so we can have some of that set up there too, to have someone to assist you to do your laundry.
let's talk about the problem of rents. Rents are high. How is this affecting students? And then I want to have you address how is it affecting other people that you're working with.
I would say the rents is pretty much, when you think about gentrification, what's happening in the community, specifically Crown Heights, the rent is pretty much going up. So with the lack of affordable housing, which one of the causes, as you mentioned earlier in one of your questions, which pretty much lead to homelessness. And you also mentioned about tent city, which I think, hopefully it doesn't come here because I believe it's unsafe. Let's start to begin giving these individual permanent housing, because when you think about the numbers, Sam, on how much it costs to house a person in a shelter, it's between $25,000 or $135,000 a year. But if you give them permanent shelter, you could be paying between $13,000 to $25,000, just giving them a housing subsidy and finding affordable housing for these individuals.
Mm-hmm. Ramona, you're shaking your head.
When I hear the term affordable housing, I just smile because the housing, it isn't affordable based on the salary scale that we have. Even for me, I'm a single parent and I live with my daughter, and I will not sit here and tell you that we have a whole lot, but we're grateful, but it's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle to get by with respect to paying rent, and it goes up every year. The rent does go up, so it's not affordable, and so that's a struggle.
There are some people who have jobs. They have somewhere to lay their heads at night, but that somewhere is at a relative, and they may be very uncomfortable because they may have some of their children there as well, and they want to have a place of their own. What do you say to people like this? And I know that there are thousands of people like this in Brooklyn.
I see students like that pretty much every day. So the term we use is housing instability. That's pretty much what's going on with these individuals. They living from house to house, or they pretty much working and they can't really manage the rent. So what generally happens is they become backed in rent. So when they come to me, I work closely with Campbell Home Base. So that's another agency when you think about bringing assistance to these students, whereas if the student is back in rent, generally what they would do is they can go to Campbell Home Base and ask for some assistance. And what Campbell Home Base does, they help with rent prevention, eviction prevention, prevention from being evicted from their apartments. Mm. And it's tough on these students, pretty much. So if they struggling to pretty much pay their rent, generally they food insecure. Goes back to that topic. So this is why the pantry in which we established on campus pretty much help out a little bit. The food vouchers we give help out a little bit because it's a $50 food voucher. They can go to Food Town and shop up to $50 for food.
You mentioned Canberra. Are there other community organizations that, one, help Medgar Evers, or that you are aware of other than your organization?
It's a Jericho Project that help out. We work closely with the Jericho Project. We work closely with Chelsea Foyer, which is another organization that deal with youth, whereas they have rooms and they charge about maybe $200 a month if they have availability for an individual up to about 23 years old. And we also work closely with HPD. HPD come on our campus and table to give out information about affordable housing, how to apply dual housing, NYC Connect. So we work closely with these individuals because when you think about it, not one organization, one individual can conquer this wickedness problem called homelessness or food insecurity. So coming from a social work perspective in the theory of system theories, it takes more than one organization.
Minister Ramona, tell us about your organization.
Well, the community assignment, their mission statement for our organization is to offer hope and dignity to the underserved residents in our community who suffer from homelessness, abuse of domestic violence, isolation of the elderly, and hunger caused by a lack of food. Right now, what we're doing, we're going out into the streets of Brooklyn, we're giving out food, we're giving out clothing, and we're directing people to various shelters. And we have a lot of other projects that we're embarking upon, but we need financial help for that. So while we're out there letting the community know we're here, this is what we plan to do, and we're here when you need us, but these are other things that we want to bring to the community as well, like the shower project, like the hair project. It's it's, when someone gets a shower, you feel revived. You go to the salon, you get your nails done and your hair done, you sort of feel better about yourself. So we're trying to bring this holistic approach, to our people out there who need the help, not because they're in a dark place at this time in their lives that they're going to be treated differently. We believe that we want to give them good food, healthy foods. I'm from the West Indies, and when we cook with a lot of spices. And we're not sure, but our people out there who is diabetic, we're not sure who suffer from high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So a new thinking, came about. Is like, we can't really cook this food with all these spices anymore.
Yes.
Our people out there, they're not getting the medical attention that they need. So when you think you're doing a good by giving food and taking a soda, with the sugar, you end up doing more harm than you really should be doing. So we started to look at some of the food choices lately, so we can, feed them better while we wait on medical attention for them.
Yes. Waleek, back to you and your students. Do you see homelessness having an effect on their academic performance?
Absolutely, because if you think about some of the stuff I alluded to earlier, Sam, when you don't have a Metro card, that means you're not in class. When you're hungry, that means you roam in the hallways. No one want to sit in a classroom where their stomach is growling. That could be embarrassing. So that pretty much what it does, it affects their GPA. And if you under 2.0, you could be put on academic probation. So the professor don't know that this troubles the student is going through. Some professors might think the person is not coming to class or they're just not serious. And as I mentioned, you would not notice unless that student self-disclosed. So this is why the Transitional Academy was created, to have that safe haven where a student could come share stuff. Everything a student share that come into the office is confidential, unless they want us to advocate for something for them, pretty much. So this is why we was able to develop a relationship with these students and have them come in, whether they're homeless, dealing with housing instability, or just food insecure, and provide those resources for them.
People travel the subways and they see these homeless people and they're afraid. People see homeless people on the street and they pass them by with disdain. How do we educate Brooklyn residents about the fact that homelessness is a problem? It affects people very often not of their own doing. Do you do education programs about this outside of the homeless population that you attend to?
No, I don't. But the question you ask is, how can we help to educate the public? Programs like these, like we're actually sitting here doing this interview with a hope, too, that people will see and that they will hear and they will know and that they will have compassion on our people. And I say our people because they're all our people. You never know somebody close to you, a family member, or even me, or even whoever can be in a situation like that at some point in time. So I'll tell you, and this is a great question, Sam. I take the number 2 train every day to work. I've been doing the number 2 train for the past 27 years. And I have seen this situation, it has increased. The moment you go onto one car, you are certain to see 1 or 2 homeless people there. And I kid you not, the scent sometimes, it's not pleasant because the folks are not getting showers. There are no showers for them. So you're gonna have unpleasant scents. And nobody wants to be on the train and be hanging and hugging and with people who smell it. It's who we are. We're creatures like that. So what the community assignment wants to do about that, and it goes right back to the shower project. You know, we can have it set up in strategic areas near to the subway station. I'm not quite sure how it's going to get done. Then we can have a crew to collect the folks who want to get a shower. Well, I talk to these folks every day, Sam, and they tell you, I'm dying for a shower. They want to get a shower. Folks want to get a shower. They're hesitant to go into the shelters, but they'd love to have a shower. So I'm thinking, as a community, we all can contribute and not complain about it all the time. If we help, and to get these people, to get our people off the subway into the places where we're going to have the shower set up, it's going to be a win-win for all. And so people need to understand that before that's set up, that this is what we're going to have to deal with in the interim. You know, it helps too. It will help greatly to take away some of the infectious diseases. It's going to reduce the risks of catching infectious diseases on the train. We have people who have cuts and bruises, have not had medical attention. So it's a problem all around. But it can be a win-win for us in the community. People understand, and we all join in this project, the shower project, that will help to bring some change to our community.
Okay. Waleek, what are some of the other solutions that you can think of within the college system, but outside in the wider community?
In regards to
Homelessness.
educating the home.
Well, educating, but solving the homeless problem.
One of the things I think first what we have to do is try to reduce the homelessness. And as we begin reducing it, we can probably come up with that solution where we can end it. So it's a process. As I just mentioned, it takes a team effort, not just one organization, not just one person. But we need more affordable housing for these individuals. We don't need any more shelters being built. We need affordable housing for these people.
People are saying that they're criminalizing the homeless. What's your response to that? Does that shock you? Do that bring about some kind of fear or anger?
To me, it's more of stigmatizing them, blaming the victim for their circumstances. And when you begin to stigmatize and blame the person for their circumstances, that's a form of discrimination and prejudice from my vantage point.
Let's talk about funding. You have to have your project funded.
That's right.
You have to have your programs funded. How do you get funding for your programs?
So when I think about funding, we're going to talk about the food part. You know, I'm very grateful for HRA, in which they offer us a grant called EFAP, which is emergency food for EFAP is emergency food for like assistance for people that's establishing pantries. So this is how we able to pretty much purchase our food for our students on campus via Food Bank NYC. It's very helpful. Students can visit the pantry once a week. And other funding come from something called the Petrie Fund, which you might see at a lot of the community colleges in we're dealing with the CUNY system, which help with funding as well, as far as giving vouchers to our students to go to the cafeteria, and also help out with rent assistance. And if a student is in the arrears, they could come apply for the Petrie Fund, where they can help them pay their back rent. Or if a student is getting found a new apartment, they can help out with furniture. They can help out with the light bill.
I see you making notes, Ramona.
So, Sam, in the past, even up until now,
Yes.
Our projects have been funded privately by us just dipping into our pockets and using from our resources of friends and family. And so we've just recently gotten our IRS determination letter, so we're officially the community assignment, and we just also got our charitable certificate, which now allows us to start applying for grants. So this is the stage that we're at right now.
Waleek, you're saying
That's nice. That's nice. That's nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brooklyn is not the only place. How bad is it in Brooklyn? And you're working with lots of organizations in Brooklyn. How bad is homelessness in Brooklyn?
Actually, I just started to partner with a few that I haven't even gotten the okay from them to mention their names.
Okay.
But we're now talking to organizations who are doing similar work. But for my just walking around in the community, I live a few blocks away from Flatbush Junction, and you just need to take a walk around a few blocks, and you don't have to go far, Sam.
Flatbush Junction?
You don't have to go far. It's right there. It's just right there.
That is kind of scary. People are saying that this is a war on the poor. Do you see it as a war on the poor or just circumstances?
I mean, when you think about war, that's such a, I would say a strong word. So I wouldn't use war. I would say circumstances, pretty much. We just need to help those that's underserved, pretty much.
I agree with Waleek on this.
Okay. One final word from both of you. Ladies first.
Yes.
I see Waleek looking at you, Ramona. Okay, Ramona.
But I'm sorry, did I?
One final word from you. We've got 2 minutes left.
Support the community assignment. Be
You
enthusiastic
would say
as
that.
we are about the shower project. We're developing our website is live. You can actually go on there and donate, and we need funding for this project. It's going to be a win-win for everyone. We're going to reduce infectious diseases on the train. People are going to be comfortable once again to sit on the train, and our homeless people will be where they need to be and have their shower and their food ready for them.
I would just like, to take the time to pretty much thank you, brother, for having me on your program, just to bring some light of some of the services that Medgar College is doing to try to conquer this wicked problem of homelessness and food insecurity. And I just say support the students wherever they at going to school. There's a lot of students that's living in the shadows. You do not know that they're homeless. So if you see a student failing, don't assume that they just don't want to go to school. Try to pull them up. Speak to them. See what they're going through, because they're going through a lot. When you think about a 19-year-old in which I spoke to, female, sleeping on a train, it's very saddening when you think about that. When you think about a veteran that served our country sleeping in his car, it's very saddening. So let's not assume, let's not stigmatize, let's just bring some resources and help these students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Waleek, and thank you, Minister Ramona.
Thank you for having me.
We believe that this is valuable information for the community, and we hope that the community responds to the information that they've heard. We'd love to hear from you on Brooklyn 45. We'd love to share information with our viewers. You should post your comments about this program on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Brooklyn45, or email us at brooklyn45@gmail.com. If you know a Brooklyn middle school or high school student with a grade point average of 90 or above, give us their name. We'll feature them right here to talk about their work at school. We hope that this will also encourage other students to be excellent as well. Brooklyn 45 is a registered 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. And tell your friends about this program. On behalf of our Brooklyn 45 team, I'm Sam Tate.